all these responses to Katt Williams, but nobody said he was lying or could prove otherwise. Vivica Fox says, I can't relate to Taraji's woes. We good over here? And I got some words for Gypsy Rose. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Welcome back to our channel, to our podcast over here. I almost made it to the weekend, minding my African American business, but y'all will just not let me rest. So it's been about a week now since Katt Williams' full interview, I put that in air quotes, with Shannon Sharpe has come out. 10 million views in roughly 24 hours. But the most interesting thing about it is the responses. And quiet as it's kept, it really wasn't an interview. It was more a comedy special. And one thing about Katt Williams is that he's very, very smart. He started off, before he got to anything else, started off dissing Shannon Sharpe, and Shannon didn't catch it. Your allegiance to losers is still not like you. So, in the smoke, in the dust, it's circulated around to other people, the interview and stuff, and people have watched it, and people not of the culture are saying a similar thing that other people have said about Katt. Something about the dude just ain't right. And I'm like, not too heavy on Katt, okay? He has covered a lot of ground in roughly 3 hours, and he's put in the work. He's privy to a lot of things inside the industry, inside the world of comedy, that we're not privy to. And, it's very much possible as an adult to disagree with somebody and still respect, them telling the truth or, stating their opinion. And it's also possible to go up for your favorite rapper and, I guess, die on the sword, like we say over here. And not look that crazy. Like, the so-called diss to Ludacris was more a blanket observation when it comes to industry men who have allegedly sold out or paid for their membership in the Illuminati, allegedly, that they go and get a different variation of the same look in a partner or a wife. And that's aside from the fact that one Christopher Bridges tried to convince us, like D. Wade tried to convince us, that it was a break baby. Yeah, people want to, still do the relationship goals thing, and I'm like, not too heavy on that. I like Ludacris, but it's so much bigger. It's so much bigger. People take a personal attack and miss the point. Ludacris just happened to be collateral damage, and because he's a bigger name, of course, more people will come out. But there was more to it than that. So, moving on. What are we in, week 4 now of the Black actress disparity pay woes? Y'all done came after Oprah. Oprah has responded. Oprah pretty much has said similar to what we've been saying over here in our last video, or the last 2 videos. when it wasn't satisfactory the first time, you guys tried a different angle, when you got more information conveniently that, the actors and the actresses that were in The Color Purple didn't have their own dressing rooms or trailers, and they had to take personal vehicles to the set every day. So y'all used that to come at Oprah. And while I'm not 100% sold on Oprah, there are some things that are questionable as to when it comes to her talk show and her channel. When it kind of teeters on exploitation, particularly when it comes to Black people. I don't take away from Oprah, first of all, her impact and her influence and the sincerity when it comes to Black art and Black media. And I stand behind her when, she stands on the, this was a role of a lifetime and this book meant so much to me. I was obsessed with it. Like, she really goes up for Black writers and Black literacy and Black, educating Black people more and more. But again, I'm also a firm believer that two things can coexist in the same time. So when Oprah stopped by the Golden Globes this past weekend to support a movie wearing purple, The Color Purple, a movie, yet again, this is like the second Color Purple movie that was up for a lot of awards and walked away with none. Now, that's not to say that Danielle Brooks and Fantasia and Taraji and Coleman Domingo won't be up for Academy Awards, because it's very possible if you're up for a Golden Globe nomination that you're also up for an Academy Award. Also, that if you're not up for a Golden Globe nomination, or if you lost at a Golden Globe, you're still possible to be up for an Academy Award nomination. So the race is not over. Stopped by and she said her piece. She was like, I was there every day. Whatever was an issue, I was there to make sure, that they got what they needed. When it comes to the pay, it's ultimately up to the agents and the people that work for the actors and actresses in the studios. I said that not too long ago. But people don't want to hear it, right? The media still continued. And caught up with Vivica Fox. And Vivica Fox essentially said, I don't, she was somewhat supportive, but she also said, I don't have, those kind of woes or something like to that effect, and we're good over here. Whew. The comment section under the TMZ tweet, in that short clip, the ugliness came out of a lot of y'all. So, y'all came at the woman's looks again, including the alleged botched plastic surgery work to her face, which was so unnecessary. That's my opinion. So unnecessary. You came at her wigs. You were trying to remember what's the last box office movie she was in. You said she was B-list. You said, you did a contrast compare with her and Taraji. And, all of that's a mess. I mean, the last point was teetering on cute. But here's the thing. It's looking like we're falling back into that same mess of mud and filth. When Monique was making her rounds, and y'all were doing the same thing when you were like, oh, well, what's the last movie she was in? Wasn't Precious like 15, 14 years ago? And where's she working at and everything? And it's like, I understand y'all have some kind of expectation that black actresses and black comedians and, black people this, black people that should just rally around and be supportive or not answer. However, the point, it all comes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, it comes down to the people that you hired to work for you, agents, managers, when they're having a phone call and they get wind of a role that's up and a script that's out, to sell you to these people. And you get the contract and you read over the contracts and you negotiate pay, you agree to that pay, and while it's good on camera and on paper to say, I stand behind Taraji and all this other stuff, everybody's still working within the confines of the white establishment. Now, the thing I would advise is, while you may or may not feel positively about Tyler Perry, he's on a short list of self-made, direct, produce, writer, funding his own projects, has his own studio in Atlanta, and still has wide distribution of his TV shows and his movies. I don't know. Like, I would say go that route or go, but again, it's like it's ultimately up to the director and producer to cast you in the role. But I don't think the contrast and the compare is really going to get us anywhere. They say a long-standing word in Hollywood is that movies make you famous and TV makes you rich. And when you think about it, you get paid a lot per episode. And on top of that, the thing about the compare and contrast is, people were listing, Taraji's nominated for this and she's been up for that, while Vivica's only had like an MTV nomination or whatever. And it's like, these are the same institutions that y'all wanted us to boycott not too long ago. Like, you measure the same metrics you measure actresses or an actor's value or legitimacy is the same, or with the same variables. You are like, oh, well, we don't need them. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game where the receipts and the money talks. Whether you've had a blockbuster 2 summers ago, or you've worked steadily, it's, like I said, it's back to the people that you hired. Now, Vivica's tone, very, subjective. I personally was like, okay, she's being honest. She probably could have just kept it cute and kept it PC. Um, but she didn't talk down on Taraji. She didn't compare, Taraji to her. I think she just kept it cute. And while Vivica has not had a major role in a while, I think her last major movie role was the Independence Day sequel, and she was in it all of about, 5 or 10 minutes. But it was still a blockbuster. Just like you want to say that Taraji, although Taraji wasn't the lead actress or supporting actress, or she was a supporting actress in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, it was a Brad Pitt and a Kate Blanchett movie. So I don't. So it's just like, Taraji has the range. Taraji has been nominated a couple of times, and that's good for her. But even at her level, she too faces limitations. She too faces a pigeonholing of sorts. Same thing that Vivica Fox has faced. She had faced that for a while up until about Kill Bill. And then, like, after Kill Bill, things kind of died down a little bit for her. Still, both of these women, both fine actresses, operating within the same white person dominated industry. And the choice is ultimately theirs as to where they want to go, who they want to audition for, who they seek out to be in movies for, and who they hire that they talk with and they're like, I want to go in a different direction. The Color Purple is great for Taraji. You have the musical thing on your resume. You have the singing on your resume. You have the dance and choreography on your resume. And you diversified your range even further. Vivica Fox has done more of the producing and the directing, more behind the scenes stuff. And so what if she's doing smaller venues of plays, and so what if she's doing, like, y'all said Tubi movies. I would quantify that as a sacrifice that she has to make. But let's not act like this isn't the same Vivica Fox that was in Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Set It Off, Soul Food, Two Can Play That Game, Kill Bill Volume 1. Let's see what else. She was also in Booty Call. So it's not like she doesn't have a catalog. But it's like when you are aware of that, you still do the compare and contrast thing with another actress. Yet you expect all of them to support one another. And who's to say that she didn't? Who's to say that she did not? I mean, what were y'all expecting from Vivica, really? When I think about this whole situation, it takes you back to, like, the old school way of thinking that, like, if one black person made it, we all made it, and, it's on, the next person to make it, to kind of reach back and pull the rest of us up. It's like they're on the same playing field, and they're moving in the same circles. that, they have executive decisions to make. They can choose whether or not to audition. They can take the Coleman approach, like we've discussed before, where it's like, you directors, you guys go to the same spaces, you guys talk on the phone all the time. I'm sure you guys have seen some of my movies and seen the richness and the quality of the production and the performances. Clock my resume, look at my work, and ask about me. You're not always guaranteed things in this life. It's ultimately up to yourself and what you believe in your range and your talent and showcasing it. Just like every other thing in life, there are sacrifices that have to be made. Taraji made decisions professionally and personally, and maybe she was fairly optimistic. I'm just theorizing, fairly optimistic that because I was working or acting across from Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett, and because I was in Hidden Figures, and because I got a Golden Globe for being Cookie, that the pay would be equal, or maybe the pay would be the same as Ellen Pompeo, or upwards of $1 million or so, like Brad Pitt. And it's like, there's definitely a level in one's catalog. And when I say level, the quality of the material, the quality of the production, and to a slightly lesser degree, the quality of the performances. Not so much that, your name, no matter what number it is on the billing, is beside, who. I can't honestly speak for, the powers that be in Hollywood who measure how they measure, an actor or an actress. But it's definitely worth having a discussion and seeing how far that goes. I don't know how far, solidarity or this expectation of solidarity with people that look like us working in the same place. And when we don't get it, especially when we don't get what we expect from a Vivica Fox, and we then, remind her in the comments about how bad she looks, we're not exactly helping the cause. And I'm sure Vivica Fox has made some sacrifices in her life. One could say being in the media for X amount of years, constantly talking about 50 Cent probably didn't help matters. And of course, because 50 Cent definitely has responded in his own way, like talking about the botched plastic surgery and how Vivica allegedly would constantly complain about Halle Berry getting all the roles. Oh, I could have played that role Halle Berry got. And, unfortunately, Vivica Fox is not, when it comes to adversity and, the type of politics that Taraji P. Henson faces and Monique faces, is not all that different. They have, for in the 90s when Vivica Fox was working in the same spaces as Jada and Halle and Sally Richardson And what's that one lady? The one that oh, I can't think of her name, but she originally like wrote Babs and was in it for a small bit, and she was in the Five Heartbeats. She played Baby Doll. Oh, I can't think of her name, but for the longest time, the other actresses that were in Halle Berry were being told, "Oh well, you didn't get this role. We were looking for a Halle Berry type," and I'm thinking, you just want Halle Berry, and nothing against Halle Berry. Halle Berry also worked her ass off. It wasn't like she came up on Broadway and was like, "Oh, it was a smooth transition into acting." She did her bit parts. She did, tryouts with sitcoms, and she started to get like bit parts in movies, Jungle Fever. Then over time, it gradually got a little bit better. But it was ultimately like 5 to 10 years before she, got to the A-list level in a lot of people's eyes. But she also made sacrifices, personally and professionally. But she also fought really hard to get some of her work, some of the production she was in, to be made. And it's like, if you need examples of people that sacrifice but also fought, worked pretty steadily, probably was aware of the same politics and the same disparity in pay, you look at these women, you know what I mean? You look at the women that didn't get as many roles, or probably knew they didn't get paid as much. But the one thing that never dwindled or never was sacrificed was the performance. Like, you still give the same level and the same standard, because at the end of the day, the numbers are what matters. So, for people's counter argument to the response that other performers and artists and actors and actresses make when it comes to Taraji P. Henson's statements, being, the looks and you're essentially doing the same thing that you were doing to Monique. And it's like, if the people on the outside or on the sidelines, the powers that be included, watching all of this, you don't think that's probably going to also play a role in the situation? You know what I'm saying? It just, like, I keep putting all this stuff on the table for everybody that's ever come to this channel, as to, there's so many different ways that you could play this. And expectations and decisions and pointing out the obvious to the masses is ultimately up to each individual. And there's definitely more than one way in Hollywood to make money besides acting. There's definitely more ways to make money in the acting industry than just movies and television. Taraji gave TV a shot when the best they could do for the Cookie character didn't pan out. She fired everybody. Thus, the Cookie situation, the spinoff, so to speak, that everybody thought was coming, wasn't going to happen. And I looked at it as, this is Taraji saying, I will not settle for less that's, reflective of this character. No, Cook, for a good while on Empire, Cookie was the star of the show. Now, granted, I kind of fell off and started watching Empire after that white lady got pushed off of the roof. It just got it was still kind of good after that, but it got a little too out there for me. And of course, Jussie Smollett had to fuck up the church's money, but I respect her and recognizing her value. If there's one thing I take away from Taraji voicing her opinions, is that she knows her value. She knows the level of sacrifice for the longest time she's had to make. And she's explained to the rest of us multiple times the reality. Some of us, there's still a small percentage of us out here that think, oh, well, if the person's on TV, they hella rich. No. But what exactly is the long game? People's response to this whole thing, they're looking at, other black people with a worth in the billions, which again, net worth is not the same as cash on hand. Like, you don't honestly think Oprah's walking around with $1 billion in her Bank of America account, do you? You don't think Tyler Perry's walking around with $100 million in his credit union account, do you? I'm just saying, do you actually think that's the case? You may not agree with how Vivica said it, what she said, but it wasn't that bad. She was honest and she was blunt. She's still a working actress, still has a catalog, and I don't think any amount of solidarity with another actress is going to change how the powers that be value us. Moving right along. So I was, again, minding my African American business, and I saw that Gypsy Rose, a good friend of mine. Gypsy Rose is not a friend of mine, but a friend of mine on Facebook, friend of mine in real life, was one of hundreds of people that came out in droves, happy that this white girl, Gypsy Rose, was out of jail. And I'm like, why are we excited? What's happening? Why are we excited somebody's out of jail? So I did a little bit of research and I was like, oh, wow. So Gypsy Rose is a young white lady that was in jail for roughly 9 years for her hand in the murder of her mother. Meanwhile, the guy that she struck up an online relationship with prior to her mom's murder, he got life in prison without parole for stabbing this lady in the back over 15 times as she was in the bed in her house. So I was like, okay, why are we happy about that? So I did a little bit more digging, a little bit more research. So apparently her mother had a condition, It wasn't like a physical deformity. It wasn't an emotional, like PTSD level type of thing. She had a condition where, and this is new to me, that precipitated manipulating people on a psychological level into believing that her daughter, Gypsy Rose, was really sick, had all these different kind of conditions that required all these kind of medications that she allegedly had Gypsy Rose taking or had Gypsy Rose on, thus getting a lot of sympathy, support, both moral, emotional, and financial, from several children's hospitals and charities and such. When I tell you all the time on the I Refuse podcast that scamming season doesn't take breaks. Like, but this was another level because she was putting Gypsy Rose through a lot of psychological hell by proxy of this whole thing and this I believe it bordered on like obsessive. So at some point in 2015, 2016, I want to say, Gypsy Rose struck up a long distance connection with this guy. And I believe the Gypsy Rose let him in. Like the mom and Gypsy Rose went somewhere. They came back to the house. Meanwhile, the boy came from another state, drove to be with Gypsy Rose. Gypsy Rose let him in the house, allegedly, and gave him allegedly duct tape and the knife and all this other stuff. He went to the bedroom allegedly, stabbed this lady over 15 times in the back as she slept, left her there to bleed out allegedly. Gypsy Rose is in the bathroom allegedly with her hands over her ears allegedly while, to block out her mom screaming. And then the two went and had sex. And then they bounced. So you got the gist of it. I was like, why are we still happy she's out? So here's the thing. I was like, that was kind of fucked up, what the mom was putting her through. I've never heard this kind of condition that this mother had, or this condition that they labeled the situation. And I've often said on the I Refuse podcast, I do not go up for white people a lot. And this is not that case. The boy definitely deserved what he got since he actually did it. Yeah, I honestly feel like Gypsy Rose got off pretty easy. Like, how do you not know that she was also manipulating this boy? And, yes, what the mother did was wild. But let's not act like it's not worlds different than what, the little white ladies be doing when they want to like stop going to work and, working less or, getting out of something. So they try to convince people that, oh, they're, going through this kind of situation, and they start getting money and stuff. And the most they ever get sentenced with is like restitution and paying the shit back. This girl honestly could have left instead of opening the door and letting this boy in and giving him the duct tape and the knife, allegedly. My 2 cents. Yes, the mother was jacked up. However, you know, less than 10 years. And then on top of that, she's out. Not only that, but she got a man. And not like a boyfriend, but like a full ass husband. And I'm like, at first I was like, what the hell have I been doing wrong? What have I been doing wrong? And then on top of that, like, she's getting a lot of media attention, which means, talk show visits, which means probably there's going to be like a memoir that comes out, a Lifetime movie. She definitely will probably get like a TLC kind of thing. Like, this is very much giving, this is going to be like a Meet the Dugars or a 90 Day Fiance type of thing. And in the back of my mind, my takeaway is like, just like she can convince that boy to come to her house, by way of the internet, to unalive her mom, allegedly. I'm pretty sure she's going to definitely honey boo boo her way through television, documentaries, TV series, reality TV. Like, the thing that is going to be most concerning is that, yet again, the media, because we're so fascinated and we love dysfunction and chaos, and that drives numbers through the ceiling, that we're going to platform yet another chaotic life. You know what I mean? Like, when you actually think about it, the middle section of this whole thing is no different than the shit you see on like A&E, the shit you see in Snapped, the shit you see in Fatal Attraction. However, we were excited that this girl got out. And then you can clearly see that, like, she's kind of like being unserious about it. I don't know how old she is. She's probably, 19, 20 years old. She's out here talking about, yeah, I got my man, I got my husband, and the D is fire. Gypsy Rose. Pretty ass name, by the way. Like, slow down, little red Corvette. Slow down. Like, you're moving too fast. And she's been saying some other stuff that has me, raising my eyebrow. Like, girl, you're not acting like somebody that just got convicted. What was it? 2nd-degree murder. Like, it's very much given natural born killers. Like you're so not taking it seriously. You're so, like, not in the least bit remorseful or, like, sorry? Like, is this fun to you? Like, that's kind of scary to me, right? And just like I was saying on the podcast a couple months ago, when people were starting to platform Larsa Pippen, and we got all caught up in the mess because we were just curious as to how the ex-wife of one former Chicago Bull player, is dating the son of his former teammate back in the day. That's like the family auntie, not biological, dating the nephew. You know what I mean? Like, and we want to platform this, and then the next thing you know, you give them a podcast, and it's like, what have you done prior to this that makes us interested? You know what I mean? Like, another flash in the pan, another trend that comes and goes. That's what I thought about. Like, it's, y'all are going to platform this and be excited about it. And it's like, you could watch Forensic Files and all this other shit to get the same thing. Yeah. But y'all be like, oh, well, you know, she did her time and, you know, bygones be bygones. Yeah, her mom was fucking shitty. Two things can be true at the same time. The mom was shitty, and Gypsy Rose is still a convicted killer. Allegedly. And she's not the least bit giving off serious or reformed. But y'all want to say Katt Williams is unwell. After he gave y'all yet another comedy special on somebody else's platform. This is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. I don't know what y'all going to do, how y'all going to do, but I'm going to tell you this. The I Refuse podcast will keep on trucking, and we will keep having things to say. And we will keep this thing going, giving you weekly episodes every week on the podcast. And just about the same frequency, new episodes on the YouTube channel. In the meantime, stay hydrated, stay blessed, stay moisturized, keep warm, and mind your goddamn business. And we will catch you guys later. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse.